Pokemon Nuzlocks have always fascinated me from the moment that I learned about them. The idea of going through an entire game with preset rules that make the game harder and being able to see the credits roll after such a monumental task is part of why it's become one of the most popular pieces of Pokemon content. The idea of going through a game with the potential of having to reset at any given moment is such a cool idea, and people have gone so far as adding their own rules to the challenge to make it even harder and therefore more rewarding when you get to the very end of the game. Nuzlocks are so popular, in fact, that it has inspired other communities like the Dead by Daylight community into doing similar challenges like Hardcore Killer or Survivor. But as someone whose last Pokemon game was Pokemon X and Y back when I was in middle school, a statement that's going to make about half the people watching this video feel as old as dirt and the other half think that I'm as old as dirt, I wasn't planning on rushing out to buy the newest game to try a Nuzlocke for the first time. Instead, I wanted to see if I could take this same idea and apply it to a game that I'm much better at playing. Marvel Rivals is a 6v6 hero shooter where you play as your favorite character from the Marvel universe and compete against other people slowly pushing a payload forward. Riveting gameplay, I know. And as someone who has peaked Celestial 2, I wanted to know how well I could combine the challenges of a Nuzlocke into a multiplayer game like Marvel Rivals. And while I know I'm not the first person to make a video on this challenge, I can guarantee that my interpretation of this challenge is going to be the hardest one yet. Okay, I can't actually guarantee that because I haven't seen every single video on this idea, but let me cook. The rules are simple. Rule number 1, if I lose as a hero, the hero is banned for the rest of the challenge with no way of getting them back. Pretty simple, I mean this is just the baseline of what a Nuzlocke is. Rule number 2, only one hero can be played per match. Once a match is officially started with the doors opening from spawn, whatever hero I'm currently playing is who I'm locked into for the rest of the match. This is to avoid situations where I may want to swap to someone like Doctor Strange for a last-ditch portal play, but only actually play him for 30 seconds, and then I have to debate on whether or not I should lose him. It also means that I can't swap if I'm getting countered, and I can't be the one that swaps to do said Doctor Strange portal play, which makes some of games a lot harder than they should be. Rule number 3, once I pick a hero, I'm not allowed to play that hero again until I've played every other available hero. So if I play Magic in my first game, I better have a damn good time with her because I have 47 other characters to play before I can touch her again. Rule number 4, once the challenge starts, any new heroes released are not available for the challenge. Look, I'm not a full-time content creator, I have a full-time job and other responsibilities that I need to take care of in my life. So when I started this challenge, I didn't know how long it would take to complete with my limited schedule. So to not make myself have an advantage if the challenge took too long, I started it at the very beginning of Season 7 with White Fox's release, and any new characters like Black Cat will not be available for the challenge. Finally, rule number 5, the challenge is considered won if my freshly level 15 account hits Celestial 3, and it's considered lost if I lose all the heroes. There's also 2 secret rules that I added in which will be revealed if their conditions are met, so hey, stick around, you might find out what they are. My strategy for this challenge was pretty simple. I planned to play the characters that I didn't feel too strong at earlier in the challenge, so that way I could either have them for later when I get to higher ranks to act as buffer games, or simply get them out of the way earlier so I don't have to stress about trying to pull off Spider-Man combos in GM. I also planned to have a couple of games in low ranks on characters I did feel strong with so I could easily lock them in for the later ranks because I felt confident that I could carry against silver players. I thought this was a good idea at least. But with all that being said, I hand leveled a fresh account to level 15, started my placements out in silver 3, and locked in my main man Magneto because it's time to teach these silver players what it means to fear Magneto!
It's coming to a close, I guess I should know that I'm never gonna see you again in a place that sells vintage clothes. I guess you should know that it hasn't been the easiest years for a band of living in the throes. And then I see a smile between repetitive aisles of flannel shirts, and I thought you would show like a beautiful ghost caught in a saving throw. And I don't even care that it's over, and I don't even care there's a wall that I won't ever look back for answers, and I won't ever look back at all. It's coming to
The moon haunts you!
It's coming to a, I guess I should know that the softest every phase the words remain as shown in the summer snow. Well, it hasn't been the easiest years in a life that hasn't let you go. And then I see a smile between repetitive aisles of well-worn dirt, and I thought you would show, I thought you would show, I thought you would
What are you
show.
aiming at?
And I don't even care that it's over, and I don't even care there's a wall
am ready to put on a show!
And I don't even care that it's over. And I don't even care there's a wall. Now whatever look back in anger. Whatever look back at all. It's coming to a close. It's coming to a close.
With those first couple of games under my belt, I was feeling fairly confident in my ability and a little bit intrigued in Marvel Rivals matchmaking, mostly because I could pretty easily tell in some of these games that they were a big mixed bag of people that actually deserved to be at this rank and people who were like myself on alt accounts, which did make some of the games feel as though whichever side had better smurfs would just win. After playing Luna though, I was thrown directly into tank jail again and decided to pick up Doctor Strange. I knew that he's one of my stronger tanks, and with how the games had been going so far, I wanted to secure him for later in the challenge because having a Strange that can make portal plays can be game-changing in higher elos. After getting the first round of domination being a fairly easy walk-em-down simulation, I thought it was all wrapped up after a particularly strong 4-man Doctor Strange ult at the start of the second round. This is probably where my arrogance got to me because the enemy team did swap around and capture the point for a bit, but after another very big Doctor Strange ult, we were able to secure the win without too much trouble. We then played a game as Mr. Server Admin himself, Bucky Barnes, and after an early pick on the Angela from hearing her try to fly into a 1v5 like a fighter pilot, we were able to be on the warpath for the majority of our offensive round and easily push the payload to point. Unfortunately, my lack of experience playing as DPS due to constantly being in tank jail at higher elos meant I wasn't able to pick up the slack needed to stop them from pushing all the way to point for our defense round, and now we have our very first game of overtime for the challenge. However, after some well-placed hooks onto the enemy Jeffrey, we were able to defend, then walk them down to pick up the win on Bucky. After that, we had a game on Rocket, another character I wanted to secure early due to him being one of the few characters I have Lord on. That seems like a weird statement considering how many hours I have in this game, but literally I only have 3 characters as Lord. Me evaluating whether or not I've wasted over 600 hours of my life aside, the only real thing of note for this Rocket game is that I had 2 kills with my melee. Not something you see every day, but hey, that's the magic of silver and gold games. After this game, I was feeling great in all honesty, 7 whole games, and we only really had one big challenge whatsoever. I was playing well, there didn't seem to be too many other major smurfs on the enemy teams I was facing, and I was ready to settle into what I thought was going to be an easy ride up the ladder to at least Diamond. But Guang Guang seemed to have different plans for me. My next game was on Emma Frost, again, a character I felt incredibly comfortable with and wanted to lock down for when we got to higher elos. The game started off as a mostly war of attrition on defense, with my passive being maxed out for a large majority of that round. Maybe I was getting too comfortable thinking that the enemy was just going to keel over and die without putting up much of a fight, and I wasn't prioritizing who I should have. That led to a few deaths. In the end, we were able to hold them to just after that first big corner in the Museum of Contemplation. I'm not quite sure what it was, whether it was bad target priority, a lack of helping my team perhaps, or maybe the fact that we were running Jeff and Adam, but we just weren't able to get a clear push through on the enemy team during our offense round. And because of that, Emma is our first loss of this challenge. But before we get back into the show, did you know that I streamed all of these games live on Twitch? You can find me over at twitch.tv/TheTarians, where I play games like Marvel Rivals, Deadlock, Dead by Daylight, and more. It's always a great experience meeting the people from YouTube on Twitch and being able to interact with you guys live. I stream every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so come by and say hi. Plus, I'm already shooting for 10k subs by the end of the subber, so why not help me also get Twitch partner? Anyways, moving on from all of that, I decided I need to get back into the DPS roster because I was making my way through the tanks a little bit too quickly, so I picked up Star-Lord and loaded into the next game. I started this one fairly strong, picked up a triple kill near the start, helped my team to get a lot of progress on point during the second round. I even had an incredibly strong ult that resulted in a quadra kill and helped us secure the mission area and Okay. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't bother me that we just lost our second hero while still in placements. One that was, honestly, one of my stronger DPS too. It's perfectly fine. I can work with this. I just need to take a step back. Let's stick to the strat more and play characters that I don't care about losing. Someone like Storm. I don't play her that much because I think Flyers aren't that strong in general, but we can give her a go, maybe find a rhythm. I'll load into this game and... Well, this is a wonderful time to reveal secret rule number 1. secret rule number 1 is an anti-FF, DC, and anti-thrower rule. For obvious reasons, I'm not allowed to FF or DC from any games whatsoever. However, if the other 5 people on my team decide to FF, or I get someone DCing from the match, I will assess how much that DC or FF affected the overall game. The same thing applies to people that are throwing the game, where I will need chat's agreement that someone was intentionally throwing and not just saying someone was throwing because they're doing poorly. If it was an FF or DC when we're basically 2 seconds away from losing, then it is what it is. However, if we're early enough into the overall match, like this Storm game where 2 people DC'd after the first round, then it's up to chat to tell me whether or not I lose the character. Thankfully, chat decided to be graceful and let me keep Storm as if I had already played her. Thankfully, we were also in placement, so getting multiple DCs actually makes the game not count. In the case of someone throwing the game intentionally, I'm just going to have to play the character again as if I'm redoing the game. So, we reset our mental and headed off to the next game of Squirrel Girl, and honestly, I was dominating this game. Kill after kill after kill after nut to the face and nut to the face. It was going great. The only real problem was their Iron Man, who I trusted my team to deal with because if I can get the other 5 people, it shouldn't be too hard to deal with the one person for the rest of my team, right? I mean, hey, they're even going hit skin to deal with him and it's okay. Maybe it didn't go the way I thought it would. Maybe 25 kills just wasn't enough. Maybe this was Guang Guang's way of punishing me for playing on an alt account. This game taught me something. The rule that I implemented about not being able to swap was actively going to not work in my favor. Remember this for later. Because if I had been able to swap to Phoenix or Hela, I probably would have been able to solo carry that game and make their Iron Man useless. But because of this rule, I'm faced with a challenge that exceeds just having a limited hero pool. If the enemy team decides to swap to characters that counter me or already have them out of the gate, it's not going to be a good game. Placements were done and they were certainly not what I was expecting. I ended up placing Silver 1, which is definitely lower than I knew I could have been, and with 3 characters already out of the challenge, I needed a win. Yeah, I'm gonna stop being so melancholy. I played Groot in the very next game and they had a Punisher. I don't think I need to say much else besides that game was a wash from the start due to the no swap rule. You know what? Okay, we need to lift up our spirits. It's time for another montage.
It's getting out of you, give me the window next to you. I'll make a coffee from the notes that you leave around the room. I'll pour for 2, then rinse it off me like the shadow of an undiscovered moon.
Judge, jury, executioner!
It's getting out of you, we'll clear the room, we'll clear the room. Punching all the lights out, life got me so stressed out. Nobody wants to talk to me, I wanna talk to you. Punching all the lights out, life got me so stressed out. Nobody wants to talk to me, I wanna talk to you. It's getting out of you, give me the window next to you. We'll grow a garden with the notes that you hum without a
Us against the world!
Then cast it off me like the bowels of an ethnographic tomb I read before, but I am certain to ignore. It's getting out of you, we'll see it through, we'll see it through. Punching all the lights out, life got me so stressed out. Nobody wants to talk to me, I wanna talk to you.
Pure chaos!
Got me so stressed out, nobody wants to talk to me. I wanna talk to you, I wanna talk to you. Punching all the lights out, life got me so stressed out. Nobody wants to talk to me, I wanna talk to you. Punching all the lights out, life got me so stressed out. Nobody wants to talk to me, I wanna talk to you. I wanna talk to you.
After that was a Blade game, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, after this one he's going to need a second funeral. Yeah, I'm not that good at Blade. So after an unfortunate time of going through losses that I didn't quite think I deserved outside of that Blade game because yeah, he's not getting back up after that, I decided to get in a game of Thor. Thor is one of those characters I have a love and hate relationship with, because similar to Captain America, whenever I play the character, it feels like I get focused down at about 5 seconds, and whenever somebody else plays the character, it feels like they'll always live, even on the smallest sliver of HP. Needless to say though, he's one of the characters that I've got a good amount of hours on to know the basics of how to play, but definitely not good enough to know all of the ins and outs. I start the Thor game on defense, and after a little bit of time just brawling with Emma Frost in the front line, I go down for my own overextension. Getting back to point, I'm able to help my team get the Emma down, but with some of my team already down and the fact that Elsa Bloodstone exists, I die and we lose the first point. Thankfully, due to some tomfoolery by our Jeff and Spider-Man and some great stalling from healer ultimates, I'm able to pick up a double on their Torch and White Fox with a well-timed ult, which buys us more time stalling the point. Unfortunately, I go down again slightly after that, and my ego is definitely deflating as I'm thinking we're about to lose another character on day 1 of the challenge. So I rushed back to point only to find that while I was away, my team severely clutched up, leaving me with nothing to do but take the kill on Emma and pad my stats. After another close call from their Luna, I'm able to get healed up and take out their Namor, and this is where I noticed that my ult is almost back. It also helped that the enemy team was trapped in base, which in my opinion, this is one of the harder bases to break out of if you're stuck in it, because the team on defense can easily defend the payload without putting themselves into line of sight of your team. All the while, most players also act as if this small corridor is the only way to get out to the payload, which leads to AoE damage being incredible here because we have a Squirrel Girl. After an Invisible Woman ult that no one on the enemy team really follows up on, we secure a kill on their White Fox and push them back into base once again. Desperate to get out of base, the enemy team switches up their comp slightly and force Elsa and Namor ults to try to get pressure onto us, but after a well done Cloak and Dagger ult to keep us up and another Thor ult for a double kill, we hold them off and pick up the Straddlers. With only a little bit of time left, their team tries for one last desperate engage, but aren't able to coordinate well enough to get through. Switching over to offense, we start the round off with a lot of trouble breaking through the initial point, but after some mid-game swaps and a Jeff ult that got 2 people out of the fight, we're able to secure a double kill, pick off the staggered Namor, and capture the point. Thankfully, with how well we held during defense, the enemy team feels very pressured and goes for some desperate ults right after the door opens, and, try as they might, one fight is all it takes for us to win. Next round, I decided that I needed to keep going into the DPS roster, which is something you'll probably hear me say about 10 more times, because oh my lord, there is so many more DPS characters than any other role. I definitely needed a win after the 5 losses of day 1, so I decided on playing Phoenix, a character that I personally have always thought was OP since her release, and I'm always surprised when I don't see nerfs for her. I mean, high damage at almost any range, an invincible dash that makes you invisible for a second, flight on command, passive healing, some of the best AoE potential in the game, and an ult that completely nullifies certain other characters from existing, and can act as a full heal, panic, and stall button if needed. What does she not even have? So needless to say, picking her here was a great decision. Playing offense on the newly unbanned Shin Shibuya map, I used said great AoE to secure an early kill on their Wanda and get the double on Strange, allowing us to push up incredibly easily. After a brief skirmish on top of point, we secure the payload and then get a brief jump scare from the enemy's Daredevil. After Hulk jumps in and dies, and then I clean up the enemy Squirrel Girl, their Daredevil apparently cleans up our entire backline. Now at this point, I was a little suspicious that one dude did all of that, but you know, maybe no one really looked at him, so I brushed it off as a skill issue. But then something weird happened. As I'm up here shooting down the enemy team with my Moon Knight, Daredevil comes in and gets both of us, and I'm not sure if this was just the death replay being weird, but that's definitely not normal camera movements from what I'm seeing. From this point on, I was kinda hyper vigilant of how this Daredevil was moving, and I personally feel like there were a few more suspicious times. Thankfully, my team was able to clean up the enemies, and we come back to the point already moving. After a panic ult to avoid dying to Daredevil, I'm able to secure a triple kill and we get the first point, and with how much the enemy team is staggering, we're easily able to secure a few more kills and find ourselves pushing well into the last point. After some ult spam by both teams going largely neutral, I pick up a kill on Cloak and Dagger that got outside of their own healing ult, and then with the help of my Gambit ulting, I sent a massive flaming bird right into this Wanda's skull, and then turned around to pick up a kill on the suspicious Daredevil for a solid penta. After Thing charges in and dies, and a little more fighting on point, we're able to push the payload the full distance and swap over to defense at 25-2. I won't bore you with too many details of what happens on defense because it really isn't that crazy. Their Hulk jumps in too much and dies without getting anything. I was able to get an ult that killed both of their healers, and I saved my team from a Jeff trying to get off the edge. They do push into overtime in a play that looks like they might get the first point, but in the end they weren't able to secure anything and we win. Also, before we continue, I want to thank my friend Michael for editing this section of the video and a few other sections that will be coming up. This video quite literally couldn't have been made and gotten out within a good time frame without him helping out, so go check him out on both YouTube and Twitch as well. All of his links will be down in the description, so please go show him some love. I then did a game of Mr. Fantastic, which wasn't too notable as we pretty much stomped through both rounds of domination in one of the fastest non-surrendered games I've had in a while. And that concluded our first day of playing through this challenge, and after about 5 hours, I had gotten up to Gold 2, 32 ranked points. Don't worry, I won't be doing a summary of where I ended on each day. I just thought it would be nice for the very first day, as it did teach me a good amount of stuff for what I needed to do for this challenge. And while I wasn't prepared for the challenge that day 2 would bring, I was feeling confident that I could get into a good rhythm with the characters that I had left, and knew that it would be best for me to keep my best characters until I got a little bit higher up on the ladder. Unfortunately, at the start of day 2, I also forgot to hit my record button, so I missed an entire game of Iron Man, but you'll have to trust me that I did win it. Thankfully, I did remember to hit my record button in the middle of the next round where I was playing Hulk, and by the middle of the round, I mean basically right when we were about to win an incredibly easy game. But that's enough of my scuffed ass being bad at being a content creator, because after winning twice in a row, I decided it's time to get into the two characters I have been dreading since the start of this challenge: Black Panther and Spider-Man. Now, even as someone who is a magic main when I play DPS, I don't play a whole lot of the other dive DPS, and both Black Panther and Spider-Man have both been characters that I've actively avoided before this challenge. So much so that before I started doing this challenge, I had literally never touched Spider-Man at all. Like, literally 0 time played, ever. So you can imagine how these games went. The Black Panther game starts out a little harsh with my whole team dying while I'm still trying to prepare for a flank, meaning I have to run away with my tail tucked between my legs. Afterwards, my inexperience as a non-magic dive player starts showing, where I'm trying to frontline as Panther instead of looking for off angles. After trying to stall for a second point on the payload with some, I'll say, slower Black Panther gameplay than I would have liked, I go down and we lose second point. Next thing I know, my team is following me while I'm looking for an off angle, and I get called scared because I, as a dive character, am waiting for my team to take attention before trying to kill their supports. Because if there's one thing I've learned over my time playing dive characters, it's that if you either go in before your team takes attention or go in from an obvious angle, the enemy team will instantly turn around and beat you up. After which, I'm able to find an angle onto their backline and not get focused down so I can get a quad with my ult to clean up a fight. Unfortunately, then the enemy team forces the swap to Namor, and I can't find a good angle to come in from, leading to us giving last point. On offense, the first push goes well enough with me finding a lucky pick onto Namor and distracting their rocket for long enough that we clean house soon after. To counter the just okay Black Panther further, the enemy team goes thing, but I'm still able to bounce around from person to person on their team and get out nice and clean, so we capture second point. Unfortunately for the last point, the enemy team decides to bust out Thing, Emma, Scarlet Witch, and Mr. Fantastic, which really just highlights the unfortunate nature of not being able to swap in this challenge. And with them constantly looking for me and my inexperience on Black Panther, we aren't able to push the point much further and lose Black Panther in a very hard-fought game. And now for a moment that I'm kind of happy about, actually. Like I said earlier, I had never played Spider-Man before in an actual game. The most amount of experience I had with him was fucking around for a little bit inside of practice range when I first picked up the game. But after seeing so many clips of him online, trying to do even a fraction of that inside of the practice range, and seeing that I just didn't really have the hands for it, I decided that Spider-Man just wasn't for me. So needless to say, I thought this game was going to be done before it even started, and that was solidified by the fact that I started the game by missing so many of my spider traces and going 0-5-0 to start out the game because I just didn't have familiarity with this character. Later on, I'm able to pick up 2 kills and then distract their Jeff long enough that my team can capture the first point, well, with a little bit of struggle. On our way to getting the second point, I get solo ulted by their Jeff and once again distract him for long enough to have my team capture the point. Since they're playing triple healer into me diving, I have to take wins where I can. I find an ult which helps us secure their Jeff and Invis, and after some more great plays by our team and me being more or less a distraction that comes in and out of a health pack and standing on point, we get right up to the last point but don't capture. At this point, because I'm playing Spider-Man, my team starts to get a little bit frustrated with me, to say the least, with someone even coming into chat mid-team fight to ask me to stop throwing the game. Listen, I'll admit when I'm doing poorly, and I wasn't necessarily the greatest Spider-Man player in this game, but to insist that I was throwing for that first round while I was still getting picks for our team was a little annoying, to say the least. Either way, I persevered into our defensive round, and while these might have not been the craziest plays on Spider-Man, I think that they were still pretty great in the moment. Like this pull I got on their Penny that let us keep holding them inside of their base, waiting out their Invisible Woman ult so I can kill their ulting Elsa and then killing her again when she tries to stall the point. And 10 final hits to end out the game. I felt pretty good about that, considering, again, I don't play this character. I wanted to highlight both of these games simply because they were another strong part of what makes a challenge like this so hard, because I am forced onto these characters that I don't have experience with, and I am forced to play them for the entire game. It also makes the challenge more exciting when I do win as those characters I thought were going to be instant losses, and how I'm going to prepare for the next time that I have to play as them. It also makes games like the next one on Angela a little bit easier to take in stride, because even though I did go 0-6-0, it was another part of this challenge that I just had to accept. And it also makes games where I can dominate as the characters I love just that much sweeter.
Extermination!
I'm colorblind. This that 1-800 hit my line. Let me 1-800 blow your mind. Some big toys, 2025 is the year. The it boy got a little money, yeah, got a little Bitcoin. She making me real coy. Never stoop too low, I don't sip dunking. Quite nice stop, I ain't talking no muffin. On a first date, say trauma dumping. Blah blah blah, like something. 3-pump way, she working that shit. She left me comatose. 3 + 6 is 9. This baby ain't talking about tic-tac-toe. She a little freak, I guess I'm an animal. Yeah. 2-stepping like Cotton Eye Joe. Don't put this shit up for me. Don't put this shit up for me. Don't put this shit up for me. Please. Don't put this shit up for me. Don't put this shit up for me. Don't put this shit up for me. Please. Still on that 1-800. Hit me up for a good time. My shit buns till it push me out of line. You can't spell my name without the $sign. Rainbow money, take whatever. Yes, I'm colorblind. This that 1-800 hit my line. Let me 1-800 blow your mind. Yeah, dick real deadly, do little damage. Got like 20 children, they cannon. Foot unsexy, snap like sandwich. Hit a double threesome, ride a tandem. Got good DNA, shawty thick, got TNA. I'm making moves, no POA. Ain't busting quick, no ETA. It's either she or maybe her. I cannot pick. I got that roly. It go tick. I'm at the Nino playing blackjack, always hit. If baby's broke, he's only doing it for that bit. Still on that 1-800, hit me up for a good time. My shit buns till it push me out of line. You can't spell my name without the $sign. Rainbow money, take whatever. Yes, I'm colorblind. This that 1-800 hit my line. Let me 1-800 blow your mind.
Also, can someone explain to me how this thing ult didn't hit White Fox? Like, her shield is down by the time it starts, so I'm just confused. I then played Psylocke. I think you can imagine how that game went. Hella was up next, and this was one of those games where you let the enemy team push a little bit too far during your defensive round, so it basically becomes a game where if you can't push all the way to the end of the map, you can't win, which did result in an unfortunate loss. I decided to get Human Torch out of the way next, because as I get up higher, I know that people's aims will become better and therefore flyers become worse, so I wanted to get rid of him early. However, I was kind of surprised with how I did this game. Despite not knowing any of his techs or really how to manage my resources well, I felt pretty nice with him going 14-1 on the first round of the game and being able to do great things like stopping an Ultron ult. Second round for Torch, and not only did the enemy team end up swapping to Torch as well, but this guy was a Lord Human Torch and we still won, so I'm thinking Torch Diff ending off the win. Hawkeye came next, and despite some amazing plays like knocking both this invisible woman out of her ults with my own and being able to snipe their Luna out of her ult afterwards, just completely dismantling their healer ults, we weren't able to pick up the win, and we have to throw Hawkeye into the the void. Before we get into the next game, if you're still around this long into the video, consider subscribing. This video took a very long time to make, not only from getting all of the footage live on stream, but also writing this whole script out, recording it, and putting it into Premiere to edit. While it's a departure from my normal content, I've had a blast just making it, so I hope you consider pressing that subscribe button and helping me reach my goal of 10k subs by the end of the summer. Thank you so much for watching, and now back to the video. After a game of Gambit where we just couldn't find a way to stop them on offense and could barely make it out of spawn, I unfortunately lost the best strategist in the game. And it's at this point that I truly believed what people had told me, that Platinum was ELO hell. The fact that I was struggling to win down here just made it even more apparent to me that half the people in Plat actually deserve to be there, and the other half had been boosted up through Marvel Rivals MMR system letting you climb off of a negative win rate. And after another unfortunate loss on Mantis, where this Spider-Man did his best to spawn trap me, and having it work unfortunately, we lost another one of our very limited strategist pool. So I switched it up. I needed to reset my mental and get in on a character that I knew, one that I had a lot of experience with on my main, and one that I had been loving to play since her release.
Hey, sugar.
Dominating was the name of the game when I played Rogue, going into the back line and dominating them, brawling in the front lane and taking out their tanks with the power of these motherfucking hands, getting great ults and creating space for my team like a true tank can. And even though when the enemy team came to offense and started pushing us back like we were made out of single-ply toilet paper, I was able to stand firm, help my team, and get us a win with one of my favorite tanks in the whole game. The Namor game I played was pretty similar to Namor's relationship with Invisible Woman. No matter how many times I sent my love over to the enemy team, they just decided to keep rejecting it over and over until we eventually lost. Now this is what I'm talking about, some nice, low cortisol gaming with Jeff. Just look at me. I just get to splash water into the enemy team to help my diving Daredevil out with extra damage. He gets to be in the trenches while I just get to sit here and enjoy splashing around in the water. I love playing Jeffrey, in all honesty. He's just so fun to be. And just bouncing people around so they can't even touch point. Oh yes! I love low cortisol gaming! So yeah, we won that game. However, continuing on the trend of me losing some of the best strategists, the next game was on Loki, and despite this funny solo kill onto the enemy Hela, we just eventually went multiple flyers on our team. To be honest, this game kind of felt like the Squirrel Girl game I had earlier, where due to having the no swapping rule and certain people just deciding to go for flyers over everything else, I just have a hard time being able to provide all of my value to the team. I played Elsa. Yeah, that didn't go so well. The next game, we hop on Venom, because at this point, we're running out of tanks to play, and I have to start making sure that the ones that I do play are the ones that I won't miss. Because, with how many losses I've had up until this point, I don't want to risk playing a character like Magneto, who's probably the closest thing I have to a main. Thematically enough, though, we spawn onto the Clintar map for a game of Venom, with a relatively dive-heavy comp of Venom, Hulk, and Black Panther, meaning we need to be very aggressive when we play this match to not lose that value from getting poked out in neutral. The game starts with us pushing up far off point to keep the enemy team from extending too far and getting a space advantage. We're able to trade our Black Panther for their Magneto before their team makes a few changes, like going Emma Frost and Namor to counter our aggressiveness and pushing to point. Thankfully, with a well-timed Wanda ult to break up the fight, we push them back and retake our space with a combo of Black Panther's ult and my own to catch off some stragglers while we wait for the next fight. However, through some well-timed poke and Hela sneaking her way into the backline to ult, we find ourselves pushed back to point and playing the ult slap game for a while, trying my best to survive for as long as possible and hoping for a strange portal that never comes. After dying, I remember to turn Simple Swing off before rejoining the fight to the next point, where they have to swap to Punisher, and with a well-timed Emma ult, the enemy team is able to take out both tanks. However, our DPS and supports went crazy after the tanks died, holding the enemy team back well enough that myself and a new Doctor Strange can make it back to the point easily and wipe them. I find a Namor coming a little too far around the corner and push him back into his team without Bubble, where I'm able to kill him with a well-done Venom one-shot combo and force their Luna ult before getting back to my team. I dive the backline after getting healed up, getting their Punisher before our Doctor Strange lets the Eye of Mama Coco out to get rid of the Cloak and Dagger and their Emma. The enemy Rogue and Namor do their best to buy some time in overtime, but we're able to clean them up and swap over to offense. The enemy team has made some swaps to pure anti-dive, going Groot, Penny, and Namor to completely nullify our ability to easily target their backline, and our team genuinely struggles to push in neutral. I suggest going to an off angle to try to escape going down main versus a Penny and Groot. After a bit of a too early engage by myself, we find ourselves contesting point to the best of our ability, but after a great Namor ult, our team falls behind me and I'm not too far behind them. On the next push forward, we find ourselves playing the ult slop game again as their Ultron, Penny, and Luna forces our Cloak and Dagger to do the same, and with the healing, we're able to wait out their cooldowns long enough that our Groot finds an amazing ult that lets us clean up the entirety of the enemy team. We capture the point, and with my own ult up, I start looking for a play of my own on the enemy backline. After being unable to force any cooldowns or get a kill, I tried to retreat and the enemy Luna took it really personally, hunting me down and using her snowball to keep me in place and eventually kill me. But this is why people say the scoreboard doesn't show your value, because that snowball being used on me lets our Wanda get a great ult off, getting their Groot and Luna zoning the rest of their team and letting me get back to the fight where I can help clean up their Cloak, Namor, Ultron, and eventually Penny, which gets us the win on Venom. The next game was on Black Widow, a character that I've always kinda liked the idea of playing, but whenever I see how terrible my ability to hit a headshot is, I just go back to playing my Magneto. I spawned in on Spider Islands after the first few shots fail to hit anyone. I slowly get into the rhythm of playing the character again, and we're able to get kills on their Bucky and tank pool, pushing the enemy team back hard while our teammates dive hard. I'm able to help on the dive, securing kills on the Gambit, Moon Knight, Magneto, and the tank pool that has decided to stagger himself hard by diving in and having no exit strategy, leaving me at 6-0 to start off the game that I thought I could have been a throwaway. We're able to cap point shortly after and then help get some quick kills onto that enemy team to wipe and stagger them back to base while the payload pushes for almost free, leaving me now at 12-0. Venom gets onto the point, but we start hearing support ults popping, so like at the sniper I am, I start backing off and making distance from the enemy team while I wait them out. Thankfully, the enemy team was not as well coordinated as us, and after giving some small space, we're able to pick them all off one by one and steal a kill on the Moon Knight from our magic. We capture second point quickly after this, and then unfortunately get taken down from an annoying Moon Knight ricocheting off of everyone while we chase down the rest of his team, but I respawn and help my team with the Venom, who's doing a weird strat of diving solo onto point before cleaning up their Gambit and Thing as well. We're able to make it further and get a cheeky kill onto the Moon Knight and then put constant pressure onto their supports while our magic cleans them up. In a desperate bid to stop our team, the enemy Cloak and Dagger ults to let the rest of their team push in and stall the point, but it's not enough as I help my team to clean them up and get a kill on the Phoenix to finish out this round. Starting on defense, their Venom immediately starts by trying to dive myself and my Rocket, but shortly after he runs away, and then I help get a kill on their Phoenix that then lets us keep pushing their team back into spawn. After being locked in spawn right off the bat, the enemy team decides to surrender, and that means I surprisingly get to keep Black Widow. Next up is Captain America, a character that, like Black Widow, I've always struggled on a little bit, but thankfully, due to the removal as animation cancels, I can much more easily hide my inability to play this character. But Cap has always been a character that feels like whenever I see someone else playing him, it's that scene from the MCU where he's constantly passing Sam and taunting him while they run around point being unable to die whatsoever. And then whenever I play Cap, it's like someone took me out back, shot me in both kneecaps and said, okay, now do a marathon. Like, I just haven't been able to master the secret sauce that lets Cap mains live with like 2 HP every time. We start the game off doing some shenanigans on point, but after I get off and then subsequently frozen, the enemy team is quickly able to capture it. I respond by picking off their Moon Knight and then Luna, which lets me hop onto their Rocket and annoy him for long enough that my team could get the rest of their team low, ending up with me getting a quad right out of the gates. Maybe I do got a little sauce with Cap. Their Magneto comes back thinking he's all that in a bag of chips, but for some reason forgets that all his powers don't work on Vibranium and goes down pretty quickly, which lets me get a quick kill onto their Luna and annoy the Rocket again until he's down. They end up pushing my team back slightly, meaning the only real option I have is to pull a classic Cap move and press ult while I'm on point to become unkillable. Surprisingly enough, this time when Cap calls the Avengers to assemble, they actually do, and we're able to get their Luna and their Thing and push the enemy team back further away from point. We unfortunately do get pushed into overtime. The enemy team is able to capture point away from us, and shortly after, I go down from a lot of people noticing me. When I get back, I try to assemble one more time, but I get killed through my ult. Thankfully though, our team swaps to Strange and we get a portal play just in time to push the game back into overtime. Even after going down myself, our Iron Fist and Ultron put in some absolute work, wiping the majority of people on the point and giving us enough time to walk back to point and help with the cleanup and getting us the win on round 1. Starting off round 2, I notice I'm solo tanking on Cap, which is less than ideal, but I'm able to start contesting the point and pick off their Jeff, leaving them a healer down for when I get blown up by their Punisher and letting my team get the rest of them with little to no problem. problem. When I make it back to point, my team takes the high ground while I'm still getting my bearings and find that they're popping ults to try to get the enemy team back into spawn, and it really is working if you see that kill feed. The enemy team ends up pushing us back to point, and I go down as I didn't see how quickly my team was trying to get out. I get back to point, try to assemble again, but after making them waste 3 ults, I'm sent back to spawn again while I try to figure out how to play into this enemy team as solo tank Cap. Something I'm not able to figure out before their Punisher puts a 12 gauge up my ass, and even after a rocket revive, I'm still not able to figure it out. I follow my Star-Lord in on the flank for my next life, and after hearing him pop ult, I dive into the enemy team and we're able to wipe them before taking back the point. Their Loki, disguised as their Jeff, tries to solo ult me for an unknown reason and finds himself being turned into sushi quickly after. Their team starts to fall down into the pit to force overtime, but aren't able to survive long enough with no healers to even allow for the chance of a Doctor Strange portal play, and we get the win on Cap. And I wanted to use these characters to show off the surprise of this challenge, how even when I'm playing characters that I thought I played at a gold level, I'm still able to maintain them well enough with good aim, good game sense, and the ability to just be a giant middle finger to the enemy team. Before we continue on from here, I just want to remind you that you are loved. I know that with how crazy and bleak the future can seem, that it's easy to spiral into dark places, but I am so glad that you are here with me on this earth. Any bad emotions you may be feeling are only temporary, and as a survivor myself, I'm proud of you for being here with us. Alright, let's get back into the video. The next game was on Invisible Woman, where I was pretty much never pressured in the backline whatsoever and was able to cleave heals and damage the entire game. Combine that with a few well-timed ultimates and a team who had a great ult usage of their own, knew how to use their characters effectively, and were willing to swap around to push the limits on overtime, and we ended up with a fairly easy win. Also, I just had to share this moment where my whole team died, but I stayed alive due to being invisible and was able to get a kill off on their sidelock who just looked like a paid actor getting too close to the edge. Back to the characters that I thought would lose immediately upon playing them that mysteriously stick around for a bit, I decided to play Adam Warlock since we had the opportunity to play him in a triple support comp. And if there's one thing this challenge has been doing, it's making me love characters that I only played once or twice beforehand. Like, Adam isn't a character I play all that often, but over the course of trying to learn him for this challenge, I've been having the time of my life. Same with Luna, Storm, and Iron Fist. I may not know all the tech for them, but they're so much more fun than I thought that they were. Back to Adam though, I was able to get a good amount of kills, a few really big ults, and even witnessed a Cloak and Dagger standing in the middle of point for a while because she could hide herself well with the water on the payload and still heal someone okay due to her auto aim. I even had a few fairly good Born Agains that let my team come back and win a fight, including this one where I only revived my Magic, who was doing incredibly well, letting her come back and help finish the fight in overtime for a clean enough win on Adam. At this point, I'm down to my last 4 characters before I'm allowed to start repeating once again, which from now on I'm referring to as rounds of availability. This round ending off with Wolverine, Daredevil, Magic, and Penny. The Wolverine game started pretty badly with me missing my first grab of the game and the entire game eventually devolving into an ult spam fight that gets us into overtime but lets us capture the first point. But after the enemy team just refuses to touch the point for the rest of the game, we're able to pretty easily push it the whole way on offense. And despite some really good play by the enemy team and getting very close to the last point as well, we're able to stagger them enough times that eventually it doesn't matter what they can do, I get the win as Wolverine. I won't lie, when I played Daredevil, I was carried without a doubt. While I did end up getting some kills, which I attribute more to the character than my ability to play him, I just didn't perform well on a character that I honestly never touched until this challenge. So while I did win, I didn't expect for him to stay around in the challenge that much longer. For Penny, I really wanted a match where I was on defense for the first round, so it didn't look too suspicious for my team when I inevitably played her on offense, and thankfully I loaded up into one map that I honestly don't think is too bad for her because for some reason people on the offense really don't like going in a different direction. While it did prove to be a little hard because we played Penny and Rocket into Phoenix, I was able to help my team hold the line on defense, and I really started to understand the power of just constantly spamming out Penny's webs to really annoy the enemy team as much as possible and provide even just a little bit of extra time to kill people. Not to mention, I got some really great cancels on Doctor Strange and Wanda ult that definitely saved my team and let us get the win. And now for the last game in my first round of availability, the character who is as close as I can get to a main on DPS, Magic. And you know what? Start the montage!
Our ends that only begin yet again, and these prayers that keep piling up, no end to the sin that stayed in your stead, or was it all pretend? 'Cause it's hardened so much that it won't even melt, and the tears that I cry from the pain that I felt, they show up there on my face when I'm right on the brink, or so I'd like to think. I've done my best, but guess in the end I'm just too much. But what can you not understand? There's no one else I wanna love. So shut it, bang, bang, bang. You must be joking, just think you'll ever understand.
So after playing each of the 48 heroes available for this challenge once, I honestly was feeling pretty good about where I was at. I had reached Plat 1, which Plat was definitely a great showing of Elo hell in my opinion because the games just felt so flip-floppy. But after those first 48 games, I had lost 15 heroes, a number I was perfectly okay with. Maybe not who makes up that number, but honestly, I went in with the idea that leaving the first round of availability with at most 20 heroes banned was a good sign for the challenge. And after getting up to that point, I had learned a few things about what made this challenge so difficult. The main problem I was having in a lot of these losses, and even in a few of the wins, really was that I wasn't able to swap my characters around. This meant that if either my team or the enemy team swapped to characters I didn't synergize well with, or directly countered me, then I would have a very bad time. And honestly, as refreshing as it was to get to play through every single character, I still dreaded the games I had to play a character that I didn't really feel comfortable on. And with an ever-decreasing roster to play from, I needed to start being more strategic about who I played and win. That being said, I immediately jumped into the second round of availability with Tank Deadpool. Something that I didn't mention the first time I played Deadpool is that he's a little bit of a special character for the purposes of this challenge. He's the only character I'm allowed to swap with mid-game by just going to one of his other versions, so if I start the game out as Tank Pool, I can still swap to Heal Pool in the middle of it. Effectively, all three Deadpools are treated as the same character. This also means that if I lose any Deadpool, I lose all of them. So with each Deadpool game, I need to make sure that I was playing him well so as not to lose my most versatile character. A statement much easier said than done as the enemy team slowly but surely waddles the cart past my team as I'm left trying to stop it pushing for free by myself, and we just barely are able to stop them from going the full distance. Thankfully though, through a combination of my team locking in and the enemy team pulling off the same mistake of just letting us push the cart for free while being in a poke war, we're able to push the cart all the way to the final point and secure another win. Next up was White Fox, and I'll just remind you that this was literally my second game of her ever. So despite the fact that our team was able to hold them to just before the first point and I was able to get a 1v1 kill on the enemy Spider-Man, I just wasn't able to provide everything I thought I could as this character, and we fall flat, losing her in the process. The next game doesn't go too much better as I continue my streak of apparently losing on the majority of strategists by going Luna Snow and having to deal with a Hela and Namor just constantly applying pressure directly into my cranium. I've been saying it since it got added, remove this team up from the game, NetEase. This will be really funny if I record this live and then the team up gets removed before the video gets out. And in an even bigger aura loss, I lost Doctor Strange and then Hulk right after this. Yeah, this challenge really didn't go my way after that first round. It's okay. It's okay. I came back the next day and I'm ready to start winning again. I find my strat again with a game of Cloak and Dagger where I personally felt that I did well to balance my damage and healing output and helped my Emma to secure a 2v3 and cap the point for a very needed win. After that, I played more Bucky in a game that came down to the nail biter with us having to fight them on point in overtime on round 3 of a domination game and then somehow turn that entire game around and full capped for a win. I then played Jeff, and as for as nice as low cortisol gaming is, I still just really don't know how to use Jeff's ult effectively, and I think this was one of the games where I personally just really let my team down. Next up was Venom, and this was one of those games where it felt like I needed to do a little bit of everything. I needed to be anti-dive to keep pressure off of my supports, I needed to dive to keep pressure on their supports, and I needed to frontline because without me, the team would just die sometimes. And while my aim as Venom was still questionable at best, we were just barely able to squeak out a win, and just like every player when they get a win that they weren't expecting, we take those. Then we had a game of Storm, the character that was spared off of secret rule number 1, and this was definitely the game where I figured out how much it meant for Storm to just sit there in damage form. Because even if I'm not getting all the hits I want, I can at least provide a good amount of bonus damage to my team, which in these ranks where people just front to back just about every single time, that extra damage can really help break through the healers that aren't expecting the bonus damage. And after a quick FF before we even get on to attack, we get the win and are able to secure our way into Diamond 3. We're getting closer. After that low cortisol game, we find ourselves in an incredibly high cortisol game as Phoenix, a character that I've honestly started liking a lot more since this challenge began, something that I can say for a good amount of the cast that I didn't play too much before this challenge. Unfortunately, at a certain point, I think I was just getting diffed on the poke battle as I wasn't able to close out the kills that I kept pushing for and provide my team the support that they needed with my poke. I then remembered that I'm currently in a very Chinese time in my life and decided to lock in Iron Fist. To be honest, my game plan as Iron Fist is pretty simple, with most of it boiling down to press right click to get bonus health, then punch the enemy to death. And then, when the fight is looking a little rough, just decide to make my own town hall a little bit cheaper and keep punching as much as possible. And while it might not be the craziest plan, the best plan, or even an effective plan, it still is a good enough plan for us to get the win on Iron Fist. I then get a game onto Moon Knight where through a combination of some okay aim and a storm providing me with the bonus damage for most of the round, we holds with some very clutch plays that let us end out the round. On offense, I have to eventually deal with their Jeff trying some dive plays that are actually working very well against us, and we take quite a while to find any sort of opening in point. Eventually culminating in my team getting a pick and me just walking forward to finish off their Cloak and Elsa. Even with a strange portal coming through, a quick Moon Knight ult makes it impossible for them to retake, and I get the win. I then took a second to bring back low cortisol gaming by playing a game with Scarlet Witch on my first time ever playing on the new Lower Manhattan map. And despite not remembering I had a Doctor Strange team up for the first point, we're able to capture and start pushing the payload fairly easily. Honestly, Wanda is one of those characters I don't expect to keep for very long, so I was never really too careful when playing her, and just did my best to have good aim since her right clicks even without the Strange team up can just melt people. Unfortunately, we have someone disconnect from the game in the middle of a pretty good push on offense with a minute still left on the timer. And even after doing as much as we could on the defense round, we're not able to stop the loss while going 5v6, which does mean that Wanda is safe due to secret rule number 1, the anti-DC rule, but it wasn't looking bright for her in future games. Alright, you know what? Let's go back to Rocket. We need something to just ease our minds and take some time to ourselves to reset the mental game.
Wait, Rocket, stand right there. I'm coming over first.
30
Check
seconds.
this
Alright,
out.
let's go.
Get ready.
Everybody twerk in my face.
You know what?
Oh shit, get it. Get it.
Oh yeah, baby.
Do that.
Take a whiff of that.
Yeah, so I ended up losing that game.
In the comics, he solos the entire MCU universe.
No, actually, the Virgin.
Oh my god, please!
Historically, literally solo the entire.
Please be healed, team!
But it was a fun loss, so it got us back in the mental game. And to spare you the next 3 games just because they're not really that interesting, I played Thor for a game which ended up just being a massive stomp, and the 2 games after that I'd run in with Punisher and Black Widow. To make a long story short, I'm not the best at aiming with either of these 2 characters, so we lose them both. You know what? I haven't done one of these for a couple pages of this script, so it's montage time!
2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Baby, no money. He's always up to something.
Baby, no money, got money, I'm a paradox. 3 scoop, preteen, steam room, looking at 3 bad thoughts, giving me triceratops. 3 short kings in the squad like Eric. I'ma take your chick like a thief in the night. You off, I'm on, it's the circle of life. I'm top my shit, yeah, I'm crossing the line. Yeah, I'm BBNO, one of a kind. Mr. Zero, bro, made a typo. My girl got a girl, she an info.
Extermination!
Prop 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm a psycho. Commas in $1 million bucks. More than I'm giving in fucks. Shotties with a big old bucks. 4G auto sets on a truck. 1 to the kidney, 2 to the dome.
Disappear!
Left, right, go. Got a rollie for the brunch and a paddock for the show. That's left, right, go. Got a big new body and a whip it like a pro. That's left, right, go. Got a great main chick and a real bad hoe. That's left, right, go.
Fear Magneto!
Outside sunny with a shine, it's sunny with a sweet new honey like ooh la la. Don't want I'm strutting, doing pingers at bunnies. Yo man, I'm sunny cause I'm really that guy. Only on fast, love cheese, went keto. Pat my fur like a pussycat pico. Funko, pop that pussy like Clico. Dust on the table, I ain't talking no Cheeto. Bands on bands on bands on bands. Yeah, I pay millions on my tags. Bands on bands on bands on bands. Bet on me, that's a one-step plan. Doing that dance. Shaking that jetty, yeah, shaking that jam. Taking advance. So much cash, it'll put you in a trance.
I also got a really fun compliment during that game of Magneto.
Magneto, I could kiss you for that bubble, dude. That saved my life.
I'm a married man.
Yeah, man. I could kiss you for that bubble. It's crazy.
Thank you.
So that was a big old confidence booster after a good amount of losses previously on that day of this challenge. The next game, I decided to lock in Cap because I needed to spread some good old American freedom. This time down in Antarctica or something and not the Middle East. Damn penguins have been hiding their oil for too long. Anyways, we start out with a pretty solid dive comp coming out of spawn with myself, a Black Panther, and a Magic all ready to go and ruin some innocent supports day for the crime of trying to play Marvel Rivals and have fun. I take the initiative after getting to point to go for a flank in an attempt to get all of the enemy's attention onto me and away from the other two dive players, resulting in their Dr. Strange seeing my low health and stepping far too forward, resulting in his death. Being down one tank and their Punisher deciding to go into melee range with the shotgun lets the rest of us get the enemy team down without too much of a problem. I then find myself on the side with my Black Panther, and similar to the first time, I decided to engage to draw the enemy's attention away from my Black Panther and then play a little bit of cleanup in order to help secure kills. Because I'm not playing this game to be the carry, I'm trying to be an annoying little fly buzzing around the enemy team's ears so they don't notice the large bulldozer about to come ramming into them. I find myself on the side with Black Panther again, engaging onto their backline and continuing my plan to distract the enemy team and end up running back into their Magneto with my shield up and blocking some of the life-saving heals coming his way. From here, we've pretty much already won the round, and with a little bit of ult spam to make sure the enemy team can't push up to force an overtime, we secure round 1. Round 2 starts a little rough with the enemy popping both support ults and us being down 1 from the ult spam at the end of round 1, so we needed to retreat for a half a second before coming back in and reclaiming the point without too much difficulty. The rest of the round mostly goes the same, with a few crazy plays like me leaping into the air in order to secure a kill onto the Human Torch with just my punches. They do end up getting a Doctor Strange portal off, but with the power of America and a giant nine-tailed fox, the enemy team goes down easily and we secure the win on cap. The next game, I continue playing the Avengers by going for Iron Man, the one who is objectively in the wrong in Civil War. And the universe, seemingly agreeing with my take, decides that a Hela on the enemy team at the start of the match is a fitting punishment that leads to my first death. We end up losing the point soon after, and after a small scuffle, I see that this Hela is working a 9 to 5 that's dependent on shooting me out of the sky. And even more ironic, not only do they go Hela right out the gate, but I've now noticed they also have a Namor as their second DPS. So not only am I currently playing a game as a flyer against two really good anti-flyers who have a broken team up together, but I'm also playing into this while not being able to swap my character. We are finally able to find a push through the enemy team onto the next engage, and after forcing their team to disengage, we finally are able to capture the point. After finally getting the point, there's a fair amount of neutral that gets played out where we're able to almost fully push the enemy back into their spawn and get a lot of capture progress. By the time they've gotten to a point for a fight, I've gotten slightly better at remembering how to position as a flyer, and even after getting shot a few times, I'm able to survive and find a little corner behind point where both myself and Venom eagerly await for our supports to see us and heal. Thankfully, Luna pops ult and we can engage again, where we pick off the rest of the team and prevent their Captain America from stalling on point for a potential Doctor Strange portal play. At the start of the next round, my fat ass fingers accidentally press my ult while we're still in spawn, and I get to see the looks of disappointment on my team's faces through their virtual characters as I apologize. I then apologize with my gameplay by helping to kill the enemy Hulk within the first 5 seconds of us engaging and helping to push the enemy team back way farther than we should have, as I use my movement speed to bob and weave away from a Doctor Strange ult, followed by a Namor ult. Unfortunately, that combo did take out enough of us that the rest of us are quickly picked off, and now we're the ones getting pushed back and eventually finding ourselves duking it out in the basement. I then see my ult come up and, like a complete idiot, shoot it blindly into an Invisible Woman ult, praying that the enemy team would be grouped up enough that I'd at least get somebody. And while I think I have an angle after that horrid ult, I soon come face to face with the reality, who's looking a little bit greener than usual, and I'm going to say I definitely bobbed and weaved away from this projectile well enough to not get totally smoked as I limp my way back to base to heal. Even after a Doctor Strange portal play by us while Hulk stalls the point in his ult, we're unable to take it back and lose round 2. Thankfully, that was the worst map for flyers on this map, so third round should be better, right? Yeah, I got blown up right away by Doctor Strange and Namor running at us, and at that point, I was completely ready to hang up the armor and never touch Iron Man again. And it definitely didn't help that their Hulk was also making it his mission to make my life as a flyer an absolute living hell every chance that he had. However, with a little bit of luck, my team is able to capture the point while their Hulk tries to hard tunnel me, and we can start getting back into the neutral game that Iron Man loves, because now I can just sit around and hit their backline with my empowered left clicks. After a death of one of our tanks from going in too far, the enemy pushes in with Cloak and Dagger ult, and I start my own ult a little bit too quickly trying to get them, but with a good enough flick, I'm able to take the enemy Hela out of the fight as well for a good trade. Coming back to point, their Invisible Woman ults, but without it getting close enough to the point, it doesn't create enough pressure onto our team. We then get a pick onto their Cloak and Dagger, resulting in a final stand from the enemy team where their Hulk ults to get their Doctor Strange portal through. I'm able to get their Hulk while he's in banner form, but am quickly picked off by Doctor Strange into hella ult, and the enemy team reclaims the point in overtime. Thankfully though, with all the ults already used in the last fight, I'm able to pick off Doctor Strange and Hulk, which leads us to regain the point in overtime, and despite a great effort with their invis ult and getting back to the point as fast as possible, we're able to push them off and secure the win. This game, I think, was an amazing example of why this challenge, and specifically how the no swap rule, is really hard to play in this game. The enemy had 3 characters who were all not only good counters to flying characters, but seemingly made it their job to try to bully me out of the sky, which is the correct play before anyone thinks I'm salty. But in any normal game of Marvel Rivals, you'd see this comp and swap up to something like Bucky, Moon Knight, maybe even Phoenix, but due to the challenge, I'm actively making the games like this one, or my Groot game, or my Squirrel Girl game that much more challenging. And while I do hate that my random solo queue teammates have to endure this as well, actually, I've got no follow-up to that statement. It kind of sucks if you're playing solo queue and then I roll up. Either way, it also serves its purpose in a different sense though, because it means that I can't just save the characters that I'm really bad at, like Human Torch, by swapping to a character that I'm really good at, like Magic, in the middle of a match, which could make the challenge a lot more trivial if I can pull it back. For instance, in the very next game, I played Human Torch, a character that I know I am not good at, in a game where I was constantly missing my shots, not really knowing how to use my abilities to their full list, not using my ult well at all, and overall not providing much to my team, ending the first round at 1-5, which wasn't too far off from the rest of the team's stats, but I think my point still stands about me not being able to just save characters that I'm not good at. Even after the second round, with us somehow getting the cart to first and second points, we aren't able to pull it back and end with a game where almost everyone on the team had a negative KD. Maybe if I didn't play a flyer into 2 hit scans, that's a thing I could have done better, and while we may never know that, I think it's a good thing to show off in order to show how hard this challenge becomes when I'm forced to play the characters I don't know and struggle with them. This is also why I made the rule that limited how often I could play a character, because now I'm not allowed to just try to win my elo back immediately after a bad loss by swapping back to what was working out for me. Like in the next game where I played Daredevil and had to endure the pain of playing a dive melee character into Penny motherfucking Parker. And while I can still get kills on Daredevil while not playing nearly at all before this challenge, because let's be honest, a deaf, blind 3rd grader with a severe Parkinson's could probably play this character well enough to get kills, the inability to swap, especially for overtime, leads to situations where I don't have the ability to provide anything for my team, leading to also losing Daredevil from those 2 rules, really making the challenge bear down on me. The next game I start by trying to go rogue, but after hearing the sounds of another Penny Parker setting up around spawn, I decided the best move is to go ahead and swap to Adam before the doors open. And I swear, the more I play Adam, the more I feel like I understand how to get value out of the character. Not just from being able to do a good amount of damage while weaving in high value heals to get that burst that save people, but also knowing that ulting early is just as valuable as ulting after everyone dies, since we played in the solo tank comp and needed to keep our Strange alive for as long as possible. Also, this is a game where I remember the amount of sounds I have as redeems on Twitch, including the one that makes me go upside down. We are able to win this game as Adam though, after being pushed into overtime where our Jeff gets an amazing 5-man ult to force them off point, and then an amazing push on offense to keep the Adam. The next game up was Penny, and despite having a fair amount of good plays and even taking off angles to make it harder for the enemy team to push in or get plays that are able to get both of their healers taken out, we just let up a little bit too much on defense that we're not able to gain back when we go to offense, losing Penny. After that, I decided to play Rogue again, knowing that sometimes the best way to deal with the enemy team is just to suck them dry. And this is one of those games where there's not much to commentate about. The win came fairly easily, with our team only really struggling to keep the enemy team down in overtime, but we were able to play Rogue incredibly well here, picking up another win. I decided to keep it rolling with the heroes I feel comfortable on by playing Magic in the next game, one where not only do I feel like I'm able to get some amazing picks off by getting my one-shot combos, but also able to provide a lot of space for my team by being able to contest the enemy team's push for as long as possible by just surviving on point by myself. And after so many times being able to pick someone off and get a team fight win, it translates into another win on Magic. I then get a win on Thing with a very interesting team experience.
Live right now on Twitch.tv.
Yes.
Yo, bro, he's gonna say the N-word. Stop.
Oh, no, wait.
Wait, please, no, brother.
Hispanic, Latino VTuber, I know what to say.
Yo, bro, smash your VTuber.
Hey, thanks, Strange. Thanks, Strange.
I said shake ass or else right now.
I then win on Wolverine in a game where the enemy team just couldn't stop me from constantly taking away their tanks, and it officially puts us into Diamond 1. It's then time for the game I was dreading for a while, the next Spider-Man game. I even practiced for, unironically, an hour and a half in the practice range just trying to learn how to properly pull people and do combos on this character before playing him. At this point, he was also the only character left for this round of availability, which means I had to play him. The first time I tried to play Spider-Man here, he actually got taken away from me, which means it's time to announce secret rule number 2. This rule is to deal with those situations where I only have one character left available to me, and that character gets banned or a teammate picks them away from me. If they're the last character I have in general, then I have to dodge the game. If they're the last character left in a round of availability, then I have to dodge the first game it happens. However, if it happens again, I am allowed to skip a round of availability, which is the case here. I start by dodging this game where Spider-Man is picked away from me, and then spend some time in the practice range while I wait for the dodge timer to expire. Then, in the next lobby, Spider-Man is banned away from me, so I'm allowed to skip a round of availability and play Moon Knight. By doing this, I'll also note that any character I skip with doesn't become available the next time they would. So after the Spider-Man game, if I skipped a round with Moon Knight, then he won't become available again. Get it? Got it? Good. Unfortunately, through a combination of me being the only person turning around for a Star-Lord and the enemy team running multiple shields, the Moon Knight game wasn't a win, so we don't have to worry about him staying unavailable after the Spider-Man game. On to the Spider-Man game, you can say what you want about some of my plays, but I honestly felt so much better about the character here. I was doing the rudimentary combos well enough that I could actually kill their supports and DPS. I was getting value for my team, even though these plays looked simple, but they felt amazing because I could finally pull off plays like these in a real game instead of just keeling over and dying every other second. You can say I got carried by my Black Panther, but I don't care because this game made me realize how fun Spider-Man is as a character despite the steep learning curve, and we somehow survive with him into another round. I then play another game of Tank Deadpool where I'm just able to chain together so many back-to-back selfies that by the time I could actually open up my book, I was almost fully upgraded. Not to mention, after taking the point once, the enemy didn't put up the biggest fight and we won fairly easily. I then played Invisible Woman in a game that can only be described like, we didn't do well at the start, and then I thought I was about to lose the best support in the game, then I got a triple and everything was good, then we didn't push the full wave so everything is kind of bad, then we hold the enemy team back so everything was good, then the enemy team almost full pushes so everything was bad, but then our team goes crazy so we win and everything is good! I then play a game of Thor, which ends up in a loss that falls under secret rule number 1, specifically the anti-troll section, because we had a Venom player that just specifically kept running into the enemy team 1v6 even when nobody else was alive. I also didn't notice this, but at the end of the game we also had a Luna who was 0-8-0 despite the enemy not having a dive comp. Chat almost unanimously agreed that this fell under secret rule number 1, and due to this being a thrower game, I had a second chance to keep Thor in the very next game. Thankfully enough, on this second chance, I also got to play on possibly the best map for Thor in my opinion. Despite a bit of a good push from the enemy team at the start of the match, and my team starting to be at each other's throats, I'm able to lead us back into the win through a combination of good engages and some well-timed ults letting us keep the God of Thunder. The next game, I wanted to make the enemy fear Magneto once more, but through a combination of just okay ult neutral on my part, and my team pressing S letting their divers take free space away from the payload, we unfortunately lose the Lord of Old Man Yowie. I decided to keep the mutant train running with another character I didn't think would last this long, Storm, who after some great ults on my port, and my team being able to take advantage of the bonus damage that I provide so we could shred through the enemy team, she keeps staying alive in despite of my ability to aim sometimes. I then get a game of Bucky rolling, which after an initial problem with my aim at the start of the game leading to the enemy getting a full push, I lock in and get a penta on offense and we're able to full push ourselves and win in overtime as we get a much better Strange Portal play comparatively. I then have possibly the easiest games of Iron Fist and Ultron I've ever experienced, with the enemy team FFing in the Ultron game, so I'm not even going to go over it, but I did win both and the Ultron win put me into GM3. I then decided that Iron Man might be the next move because I still have so many flyers, and despite the fact that the enemy team went 3 tanks and won, I'm still going to show you this clip because I deserve the praise.
A very dumb idea. Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this.
Only 60 seconds left.
Judge, jury, executioner.
Got him! Oh my lord, yes, put it in the montage. Clip it and ship it. Clip it and fucking ship it.
And despite my best efforts to stretch and squash like an old Disney cartoon, Mr. Fantastic also is going to be heading back home. I then decide that perfection is my best route to take to get further, so I play Adam Warlock, and this game can only really be described as one of those games where I needed to lock the fuck in. Then, as soon as I did, it didn't take that much longer for us to get the win. I then decide to have some low cortisol healer gameplay compared to Adam Warlock, so I go Cloak and Dagger. Unfortunately, we don't get too far on our push, and after we get wiped easily on the first team fight on defense, someone DCs and it just looks like that we're going to lose. Unfortunately, we were already in a losing position enough that secret rule number 1 wouldn't apply here. So to actually get lower cortisol, let's run it back with a montage.
It's clobbering time!
It's been a while, I've been out on my own. I get a little anxious when you call me on the phone. Somebody said that it fades away, but in the interim it was hard to see that way. It's been a while, I've been out on my own. I've been living life alone. I said I don't like change, but I'm not afraid. I can't keep it together ever anyway. And when every page is in disarray, I think we'll be okay. I said I don't like change, but I'm not afraid. I can't keep it together ever anyway. And when every page is in disarray, I think we'll be okay that way.
Assemble!
But the same year came over and over, and the only change that I could feel was the aging of my bones. And then in one October, when the sidewalk home was covered over, well, I don't know the method, but you pulled right from the bone. It's been a while, I've been out on my own. I'm in denial, I've been living life alone. I said I don't like change, but I'm not afraid. I can't keep it together ever anyway. And when every page is in disarray, I think we'll be okay. I said I don't like change, but I'm not afraid. I can't keep it together ever anyway. And when every page is in disarray, I think we'll be okay that way. That way.
By the way, we did lose Cap during that montage, just wanted to let you know. I then went into playing Magic once again, a character who I rarely got to play on my main account because I was stuck inside of Mag Jail, and through this challenge, I was allowed to remember why I love this character so much and wanted to main her but couldn't because I was always the DPS player that had to swap for the good of the team. Needless to say, this was one of those games that was slow and methodical because on offense we needed to play slow to get careful picks, and on defense we needed to make sure that our team wasn't getting rolled and could play properly front to back since their Spider-Man was always a pain in our side. And with some good slow play and a little bit of luck, we were able to stop them from pushing the full way and keep our magic intact. I then got onto Rogue, the character I'd love to be my main take, but unfortunately Brawl tanks just kinda suffer, and in this game there was an undeniable amount of spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die! So now Rogue can go join her husband in the band category. Next game was Spider-Man, and I think this is one of those games where my inexperience on the character was really showing. I felt as if I was getting my combos down well, but no one was dying. Not only that, but I was definitely playing against players that were better at countering a Spider-Man on my level, like this invis that made a few of my ults lose almost all of their value. Needless to say, not really surprised. Spider-Man found his way into the band category. I then find myself once again on the best map for Thor, so you already know what time it is. We start off with a mediocre push on offense, but then through a combination of Thor's bullshit survivability with some amazing heals from my supports, we're able to full hold the enemy team for another Thor victory. Bucky was up next in a game I can only describe as I got value for just existing, because I could draw out support ults far away from point with me just diving in like a dumbass. I could get an Emma to turn her ult directly for me and hit no one else, and just my mere presence alone was letting us get free push on the cart on offense, leading to a pretty fulfilling win. Unfortunately, the Age of Ultron ends soon after that in a game where, after watching the footage again, I still fully believe could have been won if we just stayed as 2 tanks for the whole game, because I ended with over 42,000 healing as just Ultron. So if we just had that second tank forever instead of solo taking for too many rounds, we could have easily stabilized and won. I then play another game of Venom on the Clintar map because, you know, it's thematic, and what's even more thematic for this challenge is how we had almost 3 minutes to capture a point and push the payload in overtime, but somehow just barely made it out with a victory. I then go for another Storm game where I feel like everything was clicking on this character. I knew how to position to buff my team and make sure I don't die as easily. I got a quadra kill and my Wolverine was so good that I just had to say, oh my god, I love you, Wolf, I'm coming! Bro, it's happening, I'm fucking coming! What the hell am I doing, bro? So yeah, Storm lives to see another day somehow. I then get to play Wanda again in a game where my entire objective was to just make their Spider-Man, Black Cat, and Deadpool have an actual terrible time playing the game. Like, this entire game was decided by my ability to look behind me and target their dive, and I'll just say that this game got me to GM2. We're so close, man. Next up is a Thin game, which was just an absolute nail-biter of a game, where it came down to round 3 of a domination map on Hell's Heaven of all places, with both teams at 99% capture progress, and in the immortal words of The Thing, just keep punching. And so I did, all the way to a victory screen. Invisible Woman comes up in the roulette again in a game that reminds me why I hate playing strategists with Spider-Man and Black Cat in the game, just trying to come into the back line and give me the double fist of doom. But eventually failing as I end off the first round with more damage than healing and then help put their team down in the second round for another win. Then it's time for Logan to get in the fight again, but this time I'm going to tell you something that's very top secret that even GM players haven't figured out yet. The S key on your keyboard moves you backwards and away from your team. The W key moves your character forwards and closer to your team. Unfortunately, this team kept pressing S when they should have pressed W and resulted in me getting a little angry.
Get this Spin Fist, yes. Push, 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 push. We should be pushing! We should be pushing! Push! They don't have a healer! What the fuck are we doing, bro?
So please, remember what your keys do. For safety. Yeah, that's Wolverine gone, unfortunately. But who cares about that when I have perfection on my side in a game of Adam motherfucking Warlock where we honestly have a pretty stacked triple support comp in myself, Mantis, and Gambit just being able to deal so much damage to the enemy team. So who cares if we had a solo tank? We are just better. We are perfection. We then had back-to-back-to-back losses on Tank Pool and Iron Fist, where in the Tank Pool game we really just got run over when it came to our defensive round, and Iron Fist's first game actually fell under secret rule number 1 because after a perfectly recoverable first round, our team decided to swap over to 4 DPS and run it down. However, that extra game from the thrower aspect of secret rule number 1 didn't do too much as we lose the very next game as well. Magic is up in the next game where my hands weren't quite there at the start, but by the end of it I definitely had them back and helped lead us to another victory. I then decide to play Venom once more, and I'll be honest, I still really don't know how to aim on him. Like, I know how to do the ult tech, I know how to use his slam most of the time, and I understand the fundamentals of the character, but aiming? Damn, it's really awkward, which does unfortunately lead to him going down into the depths of the band category. This leaves me with my last 8 characters to this challenge, just 8 characters to actually somehow get up 2 full divisions into Celestial. Adam Warlock, Invisible Woman, Magic, Scarlet Witch, Storm, Thing, Thor, and Bucky. It's hard, but it's doable. Next up is another Scarlet Witch game, and I swear I don't know how these games end up being so easy for this character. I don't think she's particularly amazing right now, but somehow in each game of this challenge, it really hasn't felt like I've needed to do a lot in order to get a win, and it hasn't felt like I've needed to hold my breath in the games that I've played as her. And if you think I'm rushing through these games a little too fast, it's probably because I am. Look, I realize that there's probably not going to be another montage in the video due to how many games are left, and I'm at least assuming as I write this script script that probably only about 30% of people are still watching this late into the video. And also, considering the fact that this is quite literally the longest video I've ever made, with some help of course, I can guess that the guy who's currently not only recording the voiceover for this section of the script, but also the guy who's editing it up currently are both incredibly tired. I mean, I'm usually in a perpetual state of tired anyways, so that's not really unusual. Bucky is up next, and just like every single one of my Bucky games, it starts out kinda poorly, but then I have this random moment where my hand-eye coordination just shoots up to the same level as your average 14-year-old Korean at an internet cafe, and suddenly I remember how to aim. This leads us into going to overtime against the enemy team, where each of us tries our own Play Strange Dr. Portal, with neither of us being able to do as much as we'd like, and the game ending in a draw. Honestly, I didn't entirely know what to do in this situation, because as I was writing the rules for the challenge, I didn't anticipate there being a draw, since I've only ever seen it once in my over 700 hours of playing this game. Chat and I decided that the only logical answer is to just count the hero as being played. Since I didn't lose the game, there's no reason for me to lose the hero, so Bucky stays alive. Plus, the -1 elo for a draw is enough salt in the wound anyways. Next up was a Storm game, where I did my best to just support my team as much as possible with my damage boost, because the enemy team was honestly just hunting me down as much as possible. I then get a game on Thor, where it was just one of those games where the team, and myself, I won't glaze too much, just didn't lock in quickly enough, letting the enemy team get an amazing push off way too quickly into the game that made our attempts at trying to get an even push just that much harder when it was our turn. Inevitably, the God of Thunder had to be placed into the banned category. The next game, unfortunately, Perfection has failed us, which it certainly didn't help that for the first round we were 2 healing as Adam and Jeff, but at the same time the enemy was Ultron and Deadpool, so really you should be the judge on that, because I don't think healing was the big issue. Thankfully, the Thing never lets us down, because look at that smile. Would he really let us down? The strategy of just keep punching, no thoughts, just punch, truly is the only thing that keeps this world from imploding in on itself. It also helped that I could pretty easily bait out a healer ult most of the time that I ulted, leading to a lot of situations where they were used way too prematurely. I then once again hop onto the Invisible Woman Pain Train, where very early on into the match I'm able to get a push off the map onto their Luna, but it turns out that the enemy had a DC and I had to head back to the lobby. So instead, I get a game as Invisible Woman where I have a Daredevil and Spider-Man constantly trying to get their fists so far inside of me that they can control me like a sock puppet, and unfortunately, this time, I'm not able to get peeled enough to really do anything about it, and now Invisible Woman gets to join her husband in the banned category. I recollect myself, then decide to go on to my favorite blonde woman in the game, Magic. And before you ask how I got this expensive skin, this game gives out so many free units, it's insane. I put literally $0 into this account and was able to get this skin within like, what, 5 weeks of playing? Kinda part of the reason I don't feel bad when I actually do put money into my main account. And yet, despite some amazing kills onto the enemy team's healers, despite staying on point and keeping it from moving possibly more than my tanks, despite peeling the Spidey off of my healers, I just couldn't. I don't know what it was, but at a certain point, it felt like the whole team was just getting staggered and we never properly recovered. So with that, my favorite character was sent to the banned category. I'm still gonna be playing her on my main account when I get the chance, twitch.tv/TheTarians if you've forgotten. Shameless plugs aside, the next game we have is on the character I still don't understand being here, as she was never meant to be a character that got this far. However, through a combination of being able to deny their dive with my lightning form, being that supportive DPS that Storm was designed to be, and a team that genuinely played so well, Storm is somehow still alive. My next game was on Scarlet Witch, and this game was just the best propaganda on why you should never leave somebody to solo tank, because when you're an underperforming DPS and your team isn't able to push all that effectively due to having one tank, then swapping over will help avoid losses like this. I'm not salty, just tired. And at this point in the challenge, I am down to my last 3 heroes: Storm, The Thing, and Bucky. I literally don't know how I got here with these 3 left. It's actually insane that I was able to get up here with these 3, but lose Magic? Magneto? I lost motherfucking Cloak and Dagger, but Storm is still here? At this point, I've kind of accepted that the goal of reaching Celestial is quite possibly too much. While I have a lot of experience playing Thing, the other 2 are characters I either rarely get to play due to me not being a DPS instalocker on my main account, count, or a character that I've said repeatedly was never meant to get this many wins. Either way, my goal slightly changed. I wanted to at least end this challenge 1, having fun, and 2, at least getting GM1. The next game was on Thing, and this was just a game that perfectly encapsulates why you should never give up, because despite the fact that we nearly didn't capture the first point, despite the fact that we pushed for so long in overtime, and despite the fact that the enemy team nearly managed a full push, our team held on, keeping those few precious meters from the enemy team and letting me brawl it out on point through the sacred strategy of just keep punching. Also, I got this funny clip of me body blocking this cloak and dagger and not letting them escape from the punches. Next up is Bucky, in a game that can only be described as holy shit, why was this game so long? This game was 20 fucking minutes because we made it to overtime and pushed up so much. Look at this cool ass shot I got in their Spider-Man as he was trying to escape in overtime. Good lord, how can people be this desperate for a win? I mean, I know I'm desperate for the win, but it's different. I'm trying to make a living doing this. So yeah, that game was long, it was hard, it was completely draining to me mentally and physically, but somehow it was a win. The Thing is back in action for the next game, where we're able to full hold the enemy team for the first round on Hell's Heaven, a map that I personally think is really good for the Thing due to how compact it is and the fact that he can't get tossed off the map. We then go into the second round, where we roll the enemy team for a while, and my healers keep me up for so long that I legitimately thought I was immortal for half a second, and we're able to once again fully hold for the win. But then disaster strikes my very next game. I get onto a game of Bucky where the enemy team is able to constantly keep pushing us back little by little. Even after we try to stabilize as much as possible, the enemy team just had the better coordination on their push, letting them get through every time. Offense didn't go much better, with us desperately trying to push but getting held back each time, and Bucky goes down. My luck doesn't get too much better, as I have possibly the hardest game of Storm I've had during this entire challenge. It starts off well enough with our team full pushing on offense with a minute or so left on the clock. The enemy team takes this in response with an amazing push of their own, part of it being helped by the fact that our team kept pressing S instead of W, and part of it being that their Deadpool legitimately played very well, resulting in a full push from them. We start the overtime rounds with them nearly getting to second point after we're able to stabilize for just long enough and head into our last offensive round. Now, I'll be honest when I say that this round looked pretty good up until this point here, where I'll be honest in saying that I didn't know DPS Deadpool could kill someone this quickly and then fully stack up his ult from it. And unfortunately, due to that death, he's able to get his ult off and help his team to clean up the rest of my team, and due to how little time is left on the overtime clock, we'd lose Storm. I'm down to my last character, the last possible chance that I have in order to win this challenge, and here's the thing. I actually love this character a lot. He's an easy hero to fall back on when games aren't going well because he's so good at stabilizing games. So now, I needed to put all of my faith into Benjamin J. Grimm to carry me from GM2 all the way up to Celestial. The very next game we spawn in has us playing defense first on a very poke heavy and neutral heavy map. After stealing Thing away from one of my teammates, we get going. After some small hiccups holding the first point, we're able to come back out swinging on this corner that always seems either super easy or super hard to hold depending on the team. And after a little bit longer, we stop the enemy team from getting a full push by getting onto the second point and just punching away like my life depends on it, because it does! On offense, we actually have a very rough start, being unable to get to the first point until we're more than 3 minutes into the round, but from here on out, our team locks in. I'm able to get some amazing punches, and we come away with another win. The next game starts with us on 4 takes, baby. Let's go! Oh god, they're teleporting behind us. Oh god, they have all over us! Oh god, everything's horrible! Yeah, so, it's over. It's Jover. It's done. Honestly, even though I wasn't able to achieve my goal of Celestial 3, I was still able to get to GM2 31 ranked points while doing a challenge where I limited myself as much as possible. If you want to know the overall stats over the 14 days on stream that I did this challenge for, I played 135 matches, winning 82 of them for a 61% win rate. I got MVP in 23 of those matches and SVP in 19, meaning I got MVP about 28% of the time and SVP about 45% of the time. And although I wasn't able to achieve my goal before running out of heroes to play, I still had a great time. It was incredibly fun playing through the entirety of the roster one game after the next and forcing myself to play characters that I'd either entirely given up on or had barely even touched in the first place. Honestly, honestly. And it could be just due to the fact that I did win a lot of these games, but this challenge actually made me really excited to play Rivals for the first time in a while. During seasons 5 and 6, I was in a little bit of a rough patch with the game, where when I logged on, I kind of just dreaded playing the game because I knew I was not going to have a fun time, or I was going to have all of my energy drained by teammates just doing nothing but arguing the entire match. But doing this challenge made me excited to get on stream every day with new people joining in and getting to experience the challenge with me. I don't think this is the last time I'll be doing this challenge or some other challenge run in Marvel Rivals. And I don't think this will be the last time I'll be seeing any of the people that stayed until the end of this video. So I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and please subscribe so I can keep reaching my goal of hitting 10k subs and getting into the Marvel Rivals Partner Program. Tell me what other challenges you'd love to see me do in the future in the comment section down below. I already have a terrible idea of trying to do an A to Z win streak, but who knows if that'll happen. Also, by the way, this is the script for this video. It is 39 pages long of just words. My voice is basically done after recording all of this because I basically just wrote a short story for a fucking YouTube video. Like, look, it's still going. So once again, thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!
Yes, I'm colorblind.